Hello and welcome to Introduction to Geology. My name is Paul Eric and I teach physics, astronomy, and geology at Ozarks Technical Community College in Springfield, Missouri. So this set of videos is going to be a review for the Unit 1 lecture exam. And so the lecture exam is going to cover rocks and the rock cycle. So the three different kinds of rocks are going to be igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. And then how do they change from one kind into another is going to be the rock cycle. So that's the information that you're going to need to know for the exam. Now from this particular lesson, Interlude A, Introducing Rocks, there's not that much that you need to know because all of this material is going to be covered in much greater detail in the future videos that I'm going to produce for this Unit 2 exam. Okay, so you should know the definition of a rock, and the main thing from this is that rocks are composed of minerals. Okay, you start off by talking about what igneous rocks are and where they're found, and then how do they form, and then how are they classified. So we'll talk more about this in the next video. Okay, then we do the same thing for the sedimentary rocks. So you should be able to identify certain sedimentary rocks. You should know how do they form, and then you should be able to classify them, and then where do they form. Okay, and then do the same thing for the metamorphic rocks. So examples of metamorphic rocks: how do they form, where do they form, and then how are they classified. Okay, then how do rocks change? So how do you start with one kind of rock? What do you do to it in order to change it into another kind of rock? So here's something that you should know for the exam, and it's the general pressures and temperatures under which these three different kinds of rocks form. So let's start off with the sedimentary rocks, and you'll notice that they form under conditions of low temperatures and low pressures. Okay, now let's look at the igneous rocks. Igneous rocks form under conditions of very high temperatures, and then you notice that they can form under conditions of low pressures up to very high pressures. And then notice that the metamorphic rocks are in between. So metamorphic rocks in general tend to form at higher temperatures and at higher pressures than what the sedimentary rocks do, but not so hot that they melt and then turn into an igneous rock. Okay, from this chart, I'd like for you to know that igneous rocks are the most common rocks inside the earth and in the crust. So you notice that the sedimentary rocks, even though here in Missouri it seems like there's a lot of sedimentary rocks, it's a very, very thin veneer that covers the crust of the earth. So the majority of the rocks in the crust of the earth are going to be igneous rocks. Okay, and then this stuff here on how are rocks studied, don't worry about that on the Unit 2 exam. Okay, similarly, do not worry about polarizing microscopes. Okay, and then don't worry about different kinds of other kinds of microscopes, so don't worry about that. And then also X-ray diffraction, so don't worry about that for the exam. Okay, then this is just a general chart that you could use if you are out in the field to determine whether a rock is an igneous, metamorphic, or sedimentary rock. So this is not going to be on the exam. Similarly, that's not going to be on the exam, or that's not going to be on the exam. Okay, so that finishes up this first review video, and so come back and we're going to start talking about igneous rocks.